What's up, YouTube? Capital G here. So guys, a couple of days ago somebody asked me to do a video discussion on whether or not I thought that Sangan's banning was justified. And for my money, I've always thought, any discussions and topics revolving around Sangan's legality have always pretty much been common. This was obviously escalated when Tour Guide from the Underworld was ultimately released in conjunction to the XC monsters that would, shortly come later. And I mean, there's really no two ways about it. You look at the last 3 years of Yu-Gi-Oh! And Sangan has been the best floating monster in the entire game. I mean, ultimately, I think that it surpassed Stratos. Now, a lot of people have the tendency to throw Tour Guide together with Sangan in any arguments. A lot of people say that, Tour Guide was the heart of the problem, that before she came out, Sangan was not really that big of an issue, and that she ultimately got Sangan banned. I don't agree with that, and let me just say, ultimately, I do think that Sangan was justifiably banned. Obviously, you can't ignore the Tour Guide plays. You can't ignore the entire Tour Guide factor. It's obvious. It's there. It is part of the reason that Sangan was ultimately banned. But I think that Sangan was a ban-worthy card on its own. I think that Tour Guide exacerbated the problem, to be completely honest. And my problem with Sangan ultimately is when you look at the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! And how it has evolved over, let's say, about the last 3 years, Sangan seems to be that core monster that searches out every key element that we rely on in this game. And I have to explain on that, obviously. Like, let's go back to the Synchro era. I'm talking immediately after Teledat, like the Synchro Cat, when, Synchro Cat was one of the top decks. During that format, synchros were just what won the game. Whether you're looking at Blackwing, Synchro Cat, Zombies, maybe the only exception was Lightsworn, and even they ran Plague Spreader for the occasional synchro plays. And I look at Sangan's place in that format, and I thought, you were the ultimate synchro fodder card then. Whether it was using Sangan for a synchro itself, or, more commonly, when your Sangan dies, you simply get the best synchro fodder cards, i.e. cards like Rescue Cats, cards like Summoner Monk, cards like Deep Sea Diva and Zombies. So, I look at Sangan as, you were a card that just opened up the best plays. I'm going to leave out all the extra curricular things like it being a crush card target and an allure target, so on and so forth. You look at how the game moved on when we moved from synchros, and things like Gravekeepers and Six Samurai were really wrecking Yu-Gi-Oh! They were like the tier 1 decks, and you see that, with the Storm of Ragnarok and Duelist Revolution, we started getting hand traps. People started catching on, hey, if I can't keep my field protected, then I can use these hand traps to combat your big plays, and they're less susceptible to spell and trap removal, i.e. they're harder to stop. Whether it be Max C or Effect Veiler, I mean, those were the key cards. If your opponent was trying to go off with Plant Synchro and you Max C them at the right time, I mean, they were even going to give you 1,000,000,000 cards and you were just going to come back next turn. Or more commonly, you put your opponent in a position where, yes, they give you a simple one-for-one exchange, but more importantly, you completely thwarted their actions. You didn't have to put any resources on the board that could have potentially gotten destroyed that turn. And a lot of times, if you've seen, people before they're trying to synchro summon and their play gets interrupted, their fields are complete messes. So when we were living in a post-hand trap life that were, commonly used to counter all these big synchro plays, I mean, these things were absolutely meta-defining, whether it was a Fat Veiler against a deck like Scraps hitting a key Scrap Chimera at the right time. I mean, that can basically just spell victory for the player who uses that Veiler at the right time. Maxi, DD Crow, Effect Veiler, I mean, those were meta-defining cards. So as we move from the Synchro fodder Sangan plays, we got to Plant Synchro and many other decks basically using Sangan to get that key card, that hand trap that was going to counter whatever their opponent wanted to do. So I look at 2 previous eras of Yu-Gi-Oh! That Sangan basically got you the most key element to victory, which ultimately leads us to the game and the era that we're playing in now. I mean, you guys know that we're living in an XC world, and Sangan definitely had a role in that. I look at Sangan, and I think your key role right now is to just be a searcher of XC fodder. You are the tutor of the big XC plays, very similarly to how you were the tutor to the big synchro plays. I mean, all you have to do is simply replace things like Rescue Cat with current things like Rescue Rabbit. I mean, whether it be the 1-card XC plays like Rescue Rabbit, Tour Guide from the Underworld, Wind Up, Rat, or you can dig even a little deeper, getting out the Magician Shark plays that just completely end games. I look at Sangan throughout the entire scope of like the last 3 years. And he's that core element of no matter how we play the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Whether it's, we're using synchros, whether it's we're using counter traps or counter hand traps, whether it's we're going to beat you with Xyz, Sangan's always that card in the middle saying, hey guys, I search all the broken shit. I'm the one that searches Rescue Cat, and I search, Effect Veiler from the deck. I search Rescue Rabbit. Hey, you can put me pretty much in any deck. When Tour Guide came out, obviously you couldn't torrential those plays for fear of, obviously not wanting to trigger Sangan, so on and so forth. But Sangan's always been that card that it basically embodies all of the broken shit in Yu-Gi-Oh! It just instantly tutors it. So, I think that it's a card that definitely had to go. And, as far as Tour Guide goes, I think that there's a little WWE Bret Hart thing going on here. A lot of people say that, Tour Guide is what ultimately got Sangan banned, but I don't agree. I think that Sangan could be banned on its own merits. So, Tour Guide didn't screw Sangan. Sangan screwed Sangan. So, let me know what you guys think. If you think that Sangan was unjustifiably banned, if you don't agree with anything I said, or, just whatever. Talk about whatever you want. Thank you guys for watching as always, and have a nice day.